afternoon, everybody. So we're live. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm the social media manager at the university, and we're doing another Instagram live. Why are we doing this one? So this is because a lot of you who are watching will be applying to start with us or will have accepted an offer from us to study with us in September 2020. And we know that going to university is a really big transition. It's a really big life stage, and there might be lots of questions that you have about that. So what we're doing today is we're talking all things wellbeing. So your mental wellbeing whilst you're at university, in the run up to university, we're going to be taking your questions and exploring what support services are on offer at the university. What we would like to do is if you would like to ask a question, then please feel free to use the question sticker. So we know that a lot of the questions that you might have about wellbeing might be something that you'd prefer to remain anonymous about. So if you do, then use the question sticker, which should be somewhere here, and we'll be checking those and we'll be putting them to our guests today, and we'll try and get you some answers. I'm going to be joined by Adele. Now, Adele is Head of Counselling Services at the university, and she's going to be talking about the services that we have through our Ask Us student services. So Ask Us is the term that you'll hear a lot when you join us at university, because it's essentially our one-stop shop for all things to do with things that you might need whilst you're a current student, whether that's advice on finance, accommodation, or if you do want to access some of the more formal counselling services that we have on offer. So Adele will be talking us through those, as well as chatting about all the other different routes that you can access if you want a little bit of support with things that you're finding not necessarily challenging at university, but it's not necessarily going to be negative, but you'll be encountering situations that you might be unfamiliar with. So living on your own independently, for example, managing your own money, having more freedom academically to kind of structure your own time. So all of those types of things, you might have questions about, and there's lots of avenues at Salford for you to be able to access help. So I'm going to get one of my guests on now, and like I say, remember to make use of the question sticker, just so that we can answer any questions that you might have, but feel free to do them anonymously so we don't kind of have to read out your name or anything like that. Hi Adele.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Really well, really well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So Adele, first of all, if you'd just like to introduce yourself and what you do at the university.
Yes, definitely. So I'm Adele Jackson, and I'm the counselling manager at the university. So I'm one half of the management team for counselling and wellbeing. And I've been managing the services for about 3 years now.
Okay, and your department, it sits within the Ask Us Student Services team, doesn't it? Can you tell us a little bit about that function with the university? Because obviously we know that a lot of people are going to be joining us in 2020, and they might not be familiar with kind of what services we offer yet for when they become a current student.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, Ask Us is a suite of support services for students. So we're basically the support team you come to if you've got anything that's non-academic. So we have counselling and wellbeing, disability and learner support, our finance team, visa team, career service. So we're a bit of a one-stop shop, really. So you can just come to Ask Us, and we've got a chat online or a front desk when we're face-to-face, and we're working virtual at the moment. So any non-academic questions, if you come there, we'll be able to get you to the right person, really, for some support.
So I think if we kick off, because I kind of said in my introduction by saying that there might be things when you're starting at university that you find quite unfamiliar. So didn't necessarily want to say that there were challenges, because there might not be a negative. It just might be situations that you're a little bit unfamiliar with and could do with a little bit of help in accessing support around. So whether that's kind of managing living with other people, living independently, managing your finances, kind of managing to fit everything in that you need to, sort of your own well-being, mental and physical well-being, and all your studies and part-time jobs and all the rest of it. So I guess students can access your formal counselling services, but are there some other routes that they might want to take, just kind of for a chat to people to kind of talk things through before they maybe sort of speak to one of the counselling team?
Yeah, so basically, wellbeing counselling, to access counselling, you actually go through a wellbeing advisor first. So our
Okay.
wellbeing advisors are the first port of call for kind of your first kind of questions around what support can I have, or what support do you think I
Okay.
might need.
Mm.
And so you can have regular appointments with them. They may do some educational work with you, some kind of goal setting. So they're available. The next level would be, if you want kind of more of a therapeutic intervention, would be with the counselling service. So they would refer through. We have SPAs within schools who can also help
Mm.
support students if they're kind of having kind of concerns or worries or anxieties.
I think that's really important to point out,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because I imagine that not a lot of people will be familiar with that, but the student progression assistants, administrators, sorry, they're termed, aren't they?
Yeah.
So well, there's at least one for each school, sometimes several in one school, sort of depending on how big the school is. So, yeah, can you sort of speak a little bit about their role and what they can help people with?
Yep. So they're set within the school, so they'll be in people's place of study, and they're kind of first port of call really with anything that anyone's struggling with, and then the SBAs can link in with us at Wellbeing or with counselling. So yeah, kind of anything really. There might be times when you're studying, like you said, balancing study and your personal life's quite difficult when you get to uni. It's quite a big change, and it can take a bit of adjustment, which is
Mm-hmm.
completely natural.
Yeah, yeah,
So they can kind of help with that. And again, exam stress is quite a common issue, which
yeah.
students might struggle with at college as well, which we're aware of. So we can kind of help with that. Alongside the SPAs, we also will be running from September online workshops as well. So there'll be a range of topics covered there, which are common to students.
Yeah.
Which they might not necessarily think, oh, I need to speak to someone on one-to-one,
Mm.
but would offer kind of a group opportunity to kind of discuss common issues, exam stress, things like that.
Yeah.
So they'll be running from September alongside our group therapy as well. We have some group therapy that will be starting in September too.
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different routes, isn't there? If people don't think the kind of one-on-one counselling is for them, it's maybe not something they want to access at this time. There's lots of different avenues for people to kind of go and talk through any queries, concerns that they might have. I remember, so we were just talking about askers, obviously. I remember one of the sort of front desk advisors there, because for people who haven't joined us yet and won't necessarily be familiar, we've got face-to-face frontline staff in Askers. So University House is kind of our main hub on our Peel Park campus, and people can go there and speak to someone in person, and then they can kind of be referred on if they want to be. And I know that one of the advisors there, Danny, has said that people just kind of come in for a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a chat, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine, and then they go away
Yeah.
feeling better, and they don't necessarily have to sort of speak to anybody else. But
No.
there are lots of people in the university who are impartial and are just sort of a little bit of a shoulder to lean on, aren't they? And if you just
Yeah,
have a
absolutely.
chest, then it makes things a lot more manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Students' Union as well is a really great place for that as well. There's a lot of
Right,
support
yeah,
that can be offered there through their one-on-one advisors, through their peer
yeah,
support program.
yeah,
So that's worth mentioning, that we work in conjunction
yeah,
with the Students' Union really closely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. And again, people might not necessarily know if you're just kind of joining us this year, but yeah, the Students' Union, they actually sit independently to the university. So they're an independent charitable body. And so people may kind of think that obviously we work incredibly closely together, but they are there independently, and they exist to champion students' rights, and they exist to yeah, provide that support for students really, and it's independent of the university, so people can be assured that they're sort of speaking to people who are impartial also. So I think that's kind of really important.
Yeah.
So if someone decided that they would actually like to go down the one-to-one counselling route and thought that would be beneficial to them, how does that process work?
So we have a main process that we kind of promote, which is that a student will fill in an online referral form, and that's so we just get we ask the right questions to get the right information to make sure that we're getting the student to the right type of support as quickly as possible. So an online referral form is the preferred method. A wellbeing advisor will then contact that student and talk to them about what's going on for them, what do they think they need, and then make that decision on whether we refer for in-house counselling. And then students are placed on a holding list for when counselling becomes available. And then the counsellor will kind of decide with that student, you know, what's the best amount of time for me to spend with you? What is it that you need? So it's quite an open system, really. So we work very much about what students individually need, rather than you know, just kind of, we'll give you this many sessions, etc. So that's how we kind of work it. And then we also have further in-house support services with our NHS hub. If students might need a little bit more than what we're able to offer. So that's a project, one of a kind in the country, that we work on with the universities, where if students have pre-existing long-term mental health, that we can refer through for clinical psychology or mental health nursing as well. So we have a range of services on offer from right through, really.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So people can be assured that they do have the right level of support when they need it, because you've got those important links with other caregivers. There is also the telephone counselling line as well, isn't there? Student Care First, which is open 24/7. So that's something people can access when's convenient for them, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a really enhanced offer of what we have at the university. So you know, our usual services are 9 till 5. Some of our counselling will go on into the evening up until 8 o'clock. But for students who might be struggling with kind of, I don't know, childcare, commuting in, or they're distance learners, we do have a 24/7 counselling line. So you can just pick up that phone and you'll be put through to a counsellor immediately. And like you said, it's 24/7, so it's weekend, evenings, whenever, really. So it's enhanced to what we offer already.
I think something else that might be interesting for people who are starting with us this year to be thinking about is what they can do, I guess, to kind of prepare themselves. And, you know, we're not kind of necessarily saying for people to anticipate having problems, not at all, but there are kind of new situations that you'll be introduced to, and there's kind of some good practices that you can embed ahead of time, isn't there, about kind of looking after yourself and maybe learning how to kind of cook healthy meals, that type of thing. Is there anything you would recommend to students so they can make sure that they do look after their well-being and they're already used to looking after themselves when they come to campus?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, because I think the first couple of weeks can be in a bit of adjustment. So I think it's really helpful to try and maybe think about things that might be challenging for you and how you might kind of cope with that. So if there are particular challenges you're having now, kind of to look at your expectations of, is this going to be a struggle for me when I get to university, and are there things I can do or put in place for myself that will help me kind of manage that. I think one of the big things, like you said, it's like the learning to cook healthy meals for yourself, you know, kind of ensuring you engage with like making new friends, joining societies. I think that's really important to get your social life and your support network embedded as quickly as possible. I think for students who may have concerns or anxieties or worries now, we do offer a pre-appointment system, so they can contact the Wellbeing Service and students can have a little bit of a chat over the phone about what they might be concerned about, and if there's anything we can put in place prior to them arriving, or if there's any kind of transferring of care over. But yeah, I think it's kind of being honest about expectations when you come to university and how you might survive those challenges.
Yeah, really good advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that ASCA's Student Services offer that you kind of want to touch on? So we've sort of talked about finance and career support and things like that. So there are other specialist advisors kind of outside of the wellbeing area, but obviously they all kind of contribute to making sure you have a really well-rounded experience at university. Can you talk a little bit around that?
Yeah, I think we work really closely with our disability and learning support team. So again, I think if you're at college and you already have a reasonable adjustment plan in place, or you have a diagnosis where you think you might need that extra support, I think, again, taking practical steps to making sure that's in place before you arrive is really important, to make sure you hit the ground running with your lectures and kind of preempt some of the challenges you may experience. So disability and learning support are a really great service for that and can offer really tailored advice. They also have an autism specialist advisor. So again, if that's something that you're kind of concerned about or worried about, you can have a pre-appointment as well before you arrive to discuss how that might impact, how the change might impact. So that's really quite useful as well. But like you said earlier, just the general ask us if you're concerned or worried about anything. There's a chat function, there's an email, you can get in touch and say I'm a little bit concerned about this, or I definitely advise kind of getting in touch before you arrive, just to kind of alleviate some of those worries or concerns you might be having.
Well, that's really useful to know. What I'll do after we finish up on our live, I'll put some links in our stories just for everybody watching, so you know where to get in touch if you do want to get in touch ahead of time, because I think, yeah, that's something that's really important. Yeah, we're basically a wealth of knowledge, aren't we? So ask us. So yeah, make the most of you guys, because that's what you're here for, isn't it?
Yeah, we're absolutely here. That's what you're here for. Use us. You know, a lot of our advisors are really experienced, have worked with us a long time. So yeah, definitely just get in touch is my overriding message if you're worried.
Yeah, we love hearing from students as well. So
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so it's brilliant.
You know, we're working at home at the moment. We're live on video chat and things. So it'd be nice. Please do get in touch and speak to us.
Yeah, that's right. We'll make someone's day.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's brilliant, Adele. Thank you very much. I hope that's given some people a really good insight into what we can offer in the student support services that you can access when you're going to be starting with us this year. And we know that it is a big transition, it's a big life event, but it's really positive. There's so many kind of positive aspects to it, and even though some situations might be unfamiliar, doesn't mean that you can't work your way through them as best as you can, getting kind of the best experience possible. But there are people who have seen it all before, and they can help you work through it as well. So I think that's about it from Adele for now. So thank you very much for joining us, Adele, and for everybody watching. The support services that Adele has mentioned, I'll put a link in our stories afterwards, so you know how to get in touch with us. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.
I hope that you found this session useful, and if you've got any follow-up questions, then please feel free to drop us a line. You can send us a DM on Instagram, and you can get in touch on our other social media platforms as well. So that's at Salford Uni on Twitter. It's Salford Uni on Facebook, and like I say, obviously at Salford Uni on Instagram. We've also got a Facebook group for new starters who will be joining us this academic year, and that is applying to university, University of Salford applicant Facebook group 2020. If you haven't already joined that, then again, I'll pop some links in the stories, and please do send us a request to join so you can chat with your future classmates and flatmates ahead of time, make those connections. We're available as University of Salford staff in there as well, so you can reach out to us that way. So I'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, and thanks for bearing with us during our technical difficulties, and yeah, we will see you all soon. Bye.